Latte! What's happening, everybody? Friday, February 14th, 2025. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. Everybody loves Elon. Everybody loves Elon. Everybody loves Doge, based on new polling out, since Democrats want to throw polling out, even though, let's be honest, first 2 months of an administration, who really cares about polling? Whatever, they want to do it, so we'll play the game as well. Everybody seems to love Elon Musk. Also, in a time where we have highlighted the fact that Democrats don't know which way is up, they have decided, you know what we're going to do? We're going to promote the most divisive possible policy ever. And of course, it's coming from Ayanna Pressley. That shouldn't come as a shock to anybody. Also, House Republicans put forth a bill, a budget. I don't know where they came up with this number from, but we've got to talk about that. And the second half of the show today, guys, J.D. Vance, who you guys know I've been bullish on for a long, long time, went to Europe and basically beat the shit out of every person in Europe. Slapped them like a redheaded stepchild. Beat them upways, forwards, backways, up, down, left, right. Because they are destroying some of the greatest civilizations, some of the greatest cultures that have ever existed. We're going to show you all of that. But we're going to talk about some things with it as well. Because there was a rebuttal by the German defense minister. You know, that's a title that holds certain connotations historically. Just saying. And I want you guys to see if any of the rhetoric coming out of the German elites, the German administration, sounds familiar to what you hear in America. It's almost like it's an orchestrated plan. But before we get started, guys, hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. Share it out, share it out, share it out. We are rocking. We are rolling here. I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. Also, a couple things I want to make sure I get to. One, happy Valentine's Day, even though it's a made-up holiday. Hershey and Hallmark invented it so that men would spend money, and when they didn't, we would be in trouble. So if you're a guy out there, just go out, spend the money, and live with it. You know, it's a stupid holiday. We shouldn't have it. It's really dumb. But let's move on. So, happy Valentine's Day to everybody who cares. But more than that, LFA TV has hit 100,000 followers on Rumble. 100,000 followers on Rumble. You guys know I like milestones. I like it a lot, and I just want to take this time. A little history. When Sean and I joined LFA TV, we were I believe we were the second show that Jeremy had on the network. There was one before Jeremy. There was one before us. We were on before Jeremy when Sean and I were together, when he was here on Long Island. I think there were like 20,000 followers, maybe 30,000. So the journey over the last 2 years or so has been pretty incredible. And it's all because of you guys. It's all because of you guys. You guys trusting us to deliver you the news, to deliver you the breaking news, all the stuff that happens throughout the day. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate it, how much I know all the other LFA TV hosts appreciate it, sticking with us through a lot. So, I just want to thank all the viewers out there who stuck with us since the beginning. 100,000. It's a milestone. Next up, 150,000. Giddy up. Let's go. Giddy up. Let's go. So let's dive right on in. Once again, hit the thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. Share it out. Share it out. Make sure you guys, even if you're watching somewhere else, make sure you go follow LFA TV on Rumble. So a new poll out says a majority of Americans support what Elon Musk is doing with Doge, which we didn't really need a poll to let us know about. We just had a poll in November. It was called an election, the only poll that really matters. But Rasmussen has now put out a new poll saying that people overwhelmingly favor what they are doing. And why is this? Before we get to the actual news, why do people favor this? Well, perhaps it's because the Trump derangement syndrome that so many Democrats have to deal with on a day-to-day basis has reached such epic proportions that Democrats are now coming out in favor of the IRS. Yeah, I said that. The Democratic motto moving into 2026 is going to be, vote for us. We're on the side of the IRS. Yeah, I got a feeling that's probably not going to be a winning strategy, guys. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that the IRS might not be necessary. What I'm saying is sometimes in life, there are necessities that everyone hates, like vegetables. No one is on the side of vegetables, except vegans, and those are the worst people on planet Earth. Kind of like Democrats. But the exposing of the nonsense. And look, I want to be clear. The 50 million in condoms for Gaza, that one turned out not to be true. As I'm sure, if you're watching this on X, if you're watching this on any other platform, you know that's what they're going to bring up until the end of time. They're not going to bring up the gay comic book in Peru. They're not going to bring up the fact that Joe Biden funneled $20 billion out of the EPA through Citibank in his last days in office. They're not going to bring up the fact that we are funding DEI initiatives in Serbia or transgender operas in Ireland. Just stuff that we shouldn't be doing. And it's all relative because, look, cutting a $37,000 program for a gay comic book in Peru, and look, I'm going to alter that a little bit because Democrats will get very upset. Oh, you don't like it because it's gay. No, I don't care at all. Sing a song, do a dance, be with who you want. I don't give a shit. We should not be funding comic books in Peru of any kind. As a matter of fact, we shouldn't be funding comic books in America because that is a waste of taxpayer dollars. There's a principle behind it more than a practicality. So when Elon Musk is coming out and showing the world the waste and that, look, even if I were to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, this money's not being funneled to your favorite NGO in order to import illegal immigrants. Even if I said, oh, your daughter's on the board of this NGO that you're funneling money to. Even if I didn't believe that, which we all know is true, it's just a waste of money. You might as well take it and set it on fire for all the good it's doing. And I'm sorry, I am not going to keep USAID open because 5%, 10% of the Bureau does good work. I'm not doing that. That's ridiculous. Take that 10%, put it under the State Department, and let's move on. That's a 90% cut overnight. People like what Elon is doing because it's something we all knew. How the hell can the IRS take in $4.2 trillion in fiscal year 2022 and still be in debt? How could that be if there wasn't money just being thrown out the window? Which is what we're seeing. And look, we've only just scratched the surface of the nonsense. Now we're getting reports that apparently some $20 million of taxpayer money has been utilized by members of Congress to settle sexual harassment claims against Congress. So a congressman squeezes an intern's ass, she sues, and you pay for it. I want to be clear. I want the names on that list about 15 seconds after we get the Epstein list, okay? Start putting out lists. Let's go. I want to know which congressman can't keep his hands off a titty. That's what I want to know. And I just want to say, I really hope it's Mazie Hirono. Maybe that's why she asks everyone whether or not they've ever been the defendant in a sexual assault case. Maybe because she's a giant rapist. I don't know. I don't know what goes on out there on those islands. They get a little wild. You know, they put a little too much Capitone on. They start drinking that milk from the coconut. You never know what goes on. Maybe they get a little freaky in them hula outfits. I don't know. Stupid. Maybe that's why she asks everybody about it. But it turns out, every day, more and more is being exposed. Now we're getting word that the Doge team is heading over to the IRS to see what they're doing with our money. Because here's the part about the IRS, right? When you get your tax returns, it's not the government giving you money. It's you getting your own money back. You have to pay, you have to go to an accountant, H&R Block, whatever, to find out how much you overpaid in taxes. Even though the IRS knows exactly how much you overpaid. You think they take the accountant's word for it? No, they know. They could just send you the money back and save you the $110 you have to pay at all of these pop-up tax places that show up in your local strip mall, usually in the same building as the Halloween store. They could just do that, but they don't. They don't. They waste their time looking into your PayPal account to see if you made a large transaction. Now, here is a large transaction that the 87,000 IRS agents might flag. There are 12 guys in my fantasy football league. Me and the guys I grew up with. I just won my fantasy football league. I get the money. The commissioner of the league Venmos me the money. Are you telling me that the IRS is going to come after me to pay taxes on my fantasy football winnings? That in a league I started with the guys I grew up with when we were 10? Whoever's looking into those things, they can be fired immediately. We don't need you anymore. I can't wait to see what Elon Musk exposes out of that one. But it turns out a majority of likely voters approve of Elon Musk running Doge, despite a steady stream of discontent among Democrats, a Thursday poll from Rasmussen found. The survey asked respondents, do you approve or disapprove of Elon Musk being in charge of Doge? Across the board, 55% approve. Among those, 38% strongly approve, while only 46% disapprove. Sounds a lot like the American electorate, if you ask me. With a few Democrats being a little bit pissed off at the waste, the fraud, and the abuse. Now, I wonder, when Elon Musk gets to the Pentagon, we all know Democrats, for the longest time, anti-war, anti-military industrial complex, anti-government contracts to large defense contractors for a long time. That was the whole anti-Iraq, anti-Afghanistan movement. Many of you may have come from that world of the Democratic Party. I know I did. I know I certainly did. As soon as I was old enough to figure it out, I couldn't figure out why we were still in Afghanistan. That was like 15 years ago. And it turns out it's because the money train has to keep rolling. Right now, the Pentagon spends more money than it did when we were at war. Look, we're engaged in, a large troop deployment into Iraq and Afghanistan, even though I don't agree with the fact that we were there in the first place. But, when we sent everyone into Fallujah, the Pentagon needs more money. Okay, that's a cause leading to an effect. A massive troop buildup into World War II under FDR. Okay, they get more money then. But now that the war is over, shouldn't it be less money? How could you be spending even more? As people like Matt Gaetz pointed out when he was on the Armed Services Committee, the F-35, which is a virtually obsolete aircraft at this point, considering we now use drones for everything, cost $100 million each, and only 29% of them are operational. What? That's right. We got to make sure that Raytheon, we got to make sure that Boeing, we got to make sure that Lockheed gets what they want. And that is the difference. When I sit there and I say, look, I agree with some of the things on the populist left. Cut the Pentagon. Last year, the Pentagon got $886 billion. And the way they justify that is saying, well, we need more funding, because if not, we'll be less safe. To which my question would be, you got $886 billion. If we gave you $885 billion, shaved off $1 billion, what percentage less safe would we be? Quantitate that for me. But they can't. Oh, we're going to be less safe. So we got to make sure we spend even more. How much more? As much as they ask for. And I think that's the big difference between the populist right and the neocon right. People like Mitch McConnell, who is, I hate to say it, but he's pretty much dead. And I got to be fair, because, we abused Joe Biden for being dead for 4 years. Mitch McConnell, I'm not wishing anything bad on the guy, but, go home. You're not well. That is the difference between the uniparty establishment crap and the new right. Cut the Pentagon. Go ahead. Go ahead, do it. Cut as much as you want. Take $100 billion away. Bum, just like that. What the neocons will say, what people like, let me just pick a name out. Mike Lawler. What he'll say is, you want to cut the Pentagon? You don't want soldiers to get raises? We're not idiots. We know that's not what it's going towards. Also, I want to be clear. If soldiers' raises were influenced by a budget of $886 billion, everyone in America would be in the military. I would shut this show down right now and go to my local recruiting office knowing that I could make, what would that come out to? $1.8 million a year? So save me the sanctimony from the people who are having a difficult time breathing because their lips are suction cupped to the ass of lobbyists. I'll agree with the AOCs, with the crystal balls on that one. Cut it. Do it. Not going to change my life any. Hell, we wouldn't even have to cut the Pentagon if we just got rid of the waste. If we just got rid of the crap. We wouldn't even have to cut it. And I can't wait for Elon Musk to get to it. I can't wait for Elon to get to it. Republicans approve the most, seeing 84% approving of Musk leading Doge compared to 55% of independents and 28% of Democrats. Most Democrats, of course, 71%, disapprove because, you know, only their billionaires are okay. Only Mark Cuban and Mark Zuckerberg and George Soros, only they're okay. Also, I want to be clear. Democrats, when you accost Elon Musk and you say, can you believe the richest man in the world is doing this? That they would allow the richest man? That's not a pejorative. That's a compliment. Being the richest man in the world is not a negative. As we've seen over the course of the last several years, because, you know, in 2015, Bernie Sanders was out there ragging on the billionaires and the millionaires. And then he became a millionaire, and now suddenly he's only yelling about the billionaires. Because it turns out the only thing a communist likes more than taking your money is giving it to himself. As Michael Bloomberg, a billionaire, pointed out on that debate stage, Bernie, you're the only socialist in America with 3 houses. I don't have a house, Bernie. Why don't you give me one of yours? I'll take your lake house in Vermont, by the way, if I had to choose between one of the 3. Because I'm sure your normal house smells like mothballs. And I'm sure all the furniture is covered in plastic because you're 2,000 years old. I'm sure you probably still have wood panels on the wall like it's 1978. So I'll take the lake house. I think that's fair. When asked how important it was to reduce fraud and abuse in the federal government, 86% across the board deemed it important, while 66% said it was very important. So according to this, 86% of people in America think cutting fraud and abuse in the federal government is important. But a large swath of them, the majority of those people, probably will be spending Valentine's Day alone today, are happy it's happening, but they don't like the guy doing it. Which lets you know that it's not principled, it's not policy-driven, it's ideological. That's it. But Kevin, Elon Musk just got a $400 million contract with the federal government. He's worth $486 billion. The guy has $400 million in his pocket. Not to mention, Lee Zeldin over at the EPA just found $20 billion with a B in abuse towards the end of the Biden administration. So why don't we get our priorities in order here? Just something to think about. But as we've highlighted over the course of the last several days, Democrats are in complete free fall. They don't know what the hell is going on. They got people out there who are so befuddled on camera and on microphone that they're out there saying that they want to bang President Trump. Someone said that. I don't remember her name because she's not really important. Then there was that guy yesterday I showed you who was talking about mushy Moscow stuff. I've seen that clip like 40 times. I still don't have the slightest idea what the hell that guy was talking about. But Democrats have found a new way to divide this nation, because instead of siding with the 86% of Americans who feel that cutting waste, fraud, and abuse is important, instead of doing that, Rep. Ayanna Pressley, Congresswoman Milk Dud, suburbs of Boston, do better. Do better. She has decided that, you know what she's going to do? This is the perfect time. This is the timing the Democrats have been waiting for to pitch a bill on possibly the most divisive thing in America. Before we get to that, guys, Mike Lindell.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Guys, head on over to mypillow.com, promo code LOUD. That's mypillow.com, promo code LOUD for Mike Lindell's mega sale, baby. Get your towels, get all your good stuff over there, Mike Lindell. Always doing a hell of a job. I want to say hello to the live chat real quick. I can't pull it up as I normally do, unfortunately, so I'm going to be using my trusty spy device here. Kathy Jean, how are you? Joe Civis, what's happening? David Shayani, how are you? Mike Teeny, how are you? AC Knight, first one in the Facebook chat, as always. Sophie Bob R, Leah Hunt, how are you? Nancy, how are you? Alex Ann, what's happening? Bad Moon, Green Broccoli Goose, M2. What's happening? What's happening, guys? So good to see everybody there. I hope you all have a fantastic Valentine's Day. To all the husbands out there who don't normally cook, try not to give your family food poisoning tonight. Order out, put it in the oven, pretend it's yours. It'll go over a lot better for you. It'll go over a hell of a lot better for you. Just give it a try. You know, she's going to wonder where you learned to cook like that. Say you've been watching YouTube or something. You know, just make it work. Make it work. Make it work. So Ayanna Pressley, Congresswoman Milk Dud, has decided that what she's going to do is she's going to put forth the most divisive legislation imaginable, as House Democrats have recently introduced H.R. 40, a bill for reparations. Because nothing says we're on top of the game here, like putting forth what might be the most divisive piece of legislation ever. I guess she needs more money to go out and dress like a Bond villain. On Wednesday, House Democrats reintroduced legislation that would see their plan created to give black Americans who are descendants of slaves reparations. Introduced into the H.R. 40, or the Commission to Study the Development Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. African Americans. You mean like Elon Musk? Just asking. Is being co-led by Ayanna Pressley and Spartacus himself, Cory Booker. I guess this legislation will only be voted on by bald people. I guess they couldn't find anybody with hair. In a news conference, Pressley said that reparations are a necessary step in achieving justice, and that we are in a moment of anti-blackness on steroids. And we refuse to be silent, and we will not back down in the pursuit of racial justice. It's almost like she watched a whole bunch of speeches from the 1970s and couldn't get the words right. The bill would create a commission to study and develop a proposal for reparations. No more commissions. No more commissions. No more studies. Just make a decision. That's why you're there. That's why the idiots in the Boston suburbs put you there. By the way, Boston, really? Really? Ted Williams, Larry Bird, Bobby Orr, Tom Brady, Ayanna Pressley. Come on. Do better, Boston. Do better. Hell, elect one of the guys from the Dropkick Murphys. Elect Ben Affleck. Find somebody. There's got to be somebody better than this in the suburbs of Boston. I'm just saying. So Ayanna Pressley has decided to introduce a bill that would, quote, identify, compile, and synthesize the relevant corpus of evidentiary documentation of the institution of slavery which existed within the United States and the colonies that became the United States from 1619 to 1865. I'm sure Ayanna Pressley is very concerned about the current slavery going on around the world. Of course, she's not going to bring that up because that, like 98% of it, is all happening in one general area of the world. It's not in the middle. It's not in the East. It's right in like the Middle East. Just saying. I'm just saying. You know, if you want to go find slaves, go to Libya. You can watch open-air slave auctions on YouTube. Shockingly, Ayanna Pressley, silent on that. Incredibly silent on that. I'm just saying. But when Ayanna Pressley is not putting forth the most divisive piece of legislation imaginable, we have to look at our guys. House Republicans, what in the sweet hell are you doing? What in the hell are you doing? House Republicans have passed a $4.5 trillion budget resolution. The House Budget Committee Chairman, Jody Arrington of Texas, told lawmakers the resolution is a blueprint for restoring American security, prosperity, and leadership in the world. The same bullshit language we've always heard. Following more than 10 hours. 10 hours? Oh, Lord. Congress had to work for 10 hours. I hope they got hazard pay for that. The House Budget Committee voted along party lines on Thursday night to advance the $4.5 trillion resolution that lays out funding for President Trump's border, defense, and energy policies. It also extends the Trump tax cut, adding at least $2 trillion to the federal deficit, even if America experiences strong economic growth. The House Budget Committee said it's a blueprint for prosperity. This reconciliation process is not just an exercise in matching revenues with layouts. More importantly, it is reconciling the difference between American people's interest, expectation, and values. It partially accommodates a very large price tag. The House budget resolution raises the debt ceiling by $4 trillion and instructs congressional committees to find at least $1.5 trillion in spending cuts over the next 10 years. That's what they do. That's the bullshit. So, House Republicans, when you ask why I hate you, it's this. We don't need $1.5 trillion in cuts over the next 10 years. We need $1.5 trillion in cuts over the next 10 months. Over the next 10 years. That way you kick the can down the road until you get your job at Raytheon or Boeing or Lockheed or Goldman. That amounts to roughly $150 billion annually, which is nothing. Here you go, look. Here you go. It's $20. That's the equivalent. $150 billion annual. If Elon Musk only cuts $150 billion just from Doge, I'm going to consider that a failure. I don't need over 10 years. I need over 10 months. If only I knew somebody on appropriations that could handle that. Let's see the pork that's inside of this thing. Let's see. Here we go. If the Trump tax cuts expire, the average taxpayer will see a 22% hike, obviously. Despite surviving that, let's see. Here we go. Let's type in the magic word here. Oh, nothing about salt. That's interesting. Rejecting the House's one bill approach, Senate Budget Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham introduced a fully offset $342 billion resolution to fund the border and the military, but puts off the tax cuts. So Lindsey Graham has decided to vote against keeping President Trump's tax cuts in place. I cannot wait until this thing gets released. So we can see the pork barrel bullshit that's inside of this. How many people want a park named after their great uncle? It's going to be full of nonsense, and I got news for you. As it stands right now, a $4.5 trillion budget, not going to pass. It's not going to pass. Thomas Massey isn't going to vote for it. There was something in here about Chip Roy. Is he in or is he out? Chip Roy, considered a fiscal hawk, called the plan a giant step forward to reduce government spending and inflation. No? Chip Roy? Are you kidding me, bro? They're just going to keep spending. Like a cokehead in a strip club, which, lo and behold, a few of them are. I'm just saying. I cannot wait for this budget resolution to get released and find the crap that's inside of this. Elon Musk is saving money over here, while people who have never had a real job in their lives throw it out the door over here. This woosah. Relax, Kev. This is why we hate you people. If Elon Musk saves money with Doge, that doesn't give the House leeway to spend it. The point is to shrink, not to grow. So for all the sycophants out there, MAGA never goes after their own. Yeah, I promise you. Come over here, okay? Come over here. Watch me go after our own, because I'm going to tear this damn thing apart. I'm going to tear this bill apart when it comes out. I'm a run buck wild. But I've got something better. I told you guys second half of the show today, I was going to show you a kid from Ohio who went to Europe and basically slapped everyone in the face. And we're going to get to that in 1 second. Before we do that, guys, head on over to lfatv.us. That's lfatv.us. That's your home base, your mothership, your landing pad. For all things LFA TV related, check out the LFA TV store. And while you guys are there, consider becoming a monthly donor over at LFA TV. That is the best way to support this network. Keep us rocking. Keep us rolling. Giddy up. Let's go. Giddy up. Let's go. So, JD Vance is in Munich right now. And, well, let's just say, since they're in Germany, JD Vance went up there and spoke and let them all know who's got the biggest bratwurst in the room. JD Vance scolded them on their ignoring their people in favor of illegal immigrants. Over the fact that the majority of European countries have completely ignored any semblance of free speech. Locking people up for praying in their homes. Locking people up for memes on the internet. JD Vance absolutely slapped them around on free speech. Here was JD Vance look, for the next 18 minutes, I'm going to show you America is back. And some of us have been on this tip for a while. Because when Europe sneezes, America catches a cold. Everything bad that happens in Europe is coming over here next. And the erosion of free speech in places like the UK, the place that gave us the Magna Carta, maybe the single most important document written by man. To watch the downfall of that culture, of that civilization, JD Vance let these important, rich, powerful people in Europe know then we're not taking your shit anymore.
And unfortunately, when I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners. I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action. I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Koran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief. And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
Free speech is in retreat. Need any more proof of that? Tommy Robinson got a year in jail for showing the faces of Muslim groomers, of people on trial for grooming teenage girls and selling them into sex slavery. Tommy Robinson got a year. That's not this sentence. That's the one before. That's the one before. But what about democracy? Democracy is on the ballot. What about democracy? Well, it turns out the European Union, they don't really like democracy so much when democracy doesn't go their way, as we saw in Romania.
We're at the point, of course, that the situation has gotten so bad that this December, Romania straight up canceled the results of a presidential election based on the flimsy suspicions of an intelligence agency and enormous pressure from its continental neighbors. Now, as I understand it, the argument was that Russian disinformation had infected the Romanian elections. But I'd ask my European friends to have some perspective. You can believe it's wrong for Russia to buy social media advertisements to influence your elections. We certainly do. You can condemn it on the world stage even. But if your democracy can be destroyed with a few $100,000 of digital advertising from a foreign country, then it wasn't very strong to begin with.
I've got a feeling that that clapping came from the Hungarian or the Hungarian delegation. Viktor Orban, shout out. Not a dictator in any way, by the way. Not a dictator in any way. But he talked about foreign interference in elections in Romania. That sound familiar to anybody here? Does that sound familiar? But then J.D. Vance brings up other foreigners who impact elections all over the world. Vladimir Putin is taking out Facebook ads, so Romania has to cancel their elections. Well, why the hell did I have some autistic Swedish girl telling me about the air outside? I had to put up with that crap for years. You know who I'm talking about. How dare you? How dare you?
And expressing opinions isn't election interference. Even when people express views outside your own country, and even when those people are very influential. And trust me, I say this with all humor, if American democracy can survive 10 years of Greta Thunberg scolding, you guys can survive a few months of Elon Musk. But what no democracy, American, German, or European, will survive is telling millions of voters that their thoughts and concerns, their aspirations, their pleas for relief are invalid or unworthy of even being considered.
Does that sound a little bit like the elites here? Guys. It's not that our policies are wrong. It's that we didn't get the message out. No. That's not what it is. But that all undergirds the biggest problem in Europe and in America. And it is the importation of so many people that the culture in which a nation is founded is dissolved.
I believe there is nothing more urgent than mass migration. Today, almost 1 in 5 people living in this country moved here from abroad. That is, of course, an all-time high. It's a similar number, by the way, in the United States, also an all-time high. The number of immigrants who entered the EU from non-EU countries doubled between 2021 and 2022 alone, and of course, it's gotten much higher since. And we know this situation, it didn't materialize in a vacuum. It's the result of a series of conscious decisions made by politicians all over the continent and others across the world over the span of a decade. We saw the horrors wrought by these decisions yesterday in this very city. And of course, I can't bring it up again without thinking about the terrible victims who had a beautiful winter day in Munich ruined. Our thoughts and prayers are with them and will remain with them. But why did this happen in the first place? It's a terrible story, but it's one we've heard way too many times in Europe and unfortunately too many times in the United States as well. An asylum seeker, often a young man in his mid-20s, already known to police, rams a car into a crowd and shatters a community. How many times must we suffer these appalling setbacks before we change course and take our shared civilization in a new direction? No voter on this continent went to the ballot box to open the floodgates to millions of unvetted immigrants.
And moreover, I have a feeling if I asked all of you watching, hey, when that asylum seeker, when he rammed that car into a crowded market in Munich and was captured, what do you think he was yelling? Was it Christ is King? Was it Shabbat Shalom? Was it Praise Joseph Smith? Was it something about Buddha? I don't know what they say. Was it a Hindu? I don't know what Hindus say either. No, of course. Spoiler alert, he was yelling for Allah. Oh, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming. But this is a long-running problem, not only in Europe, not only in America, but in the totality of Western culture. And some of us have been on this train for 10 years. Some of us have been talking about this for a long, long time, and we were labeled everything under the sun. Racist, istophobe, whatever you want to call it. You're anti-Muslim. No, I'm anti-shit blowing up, okay? And like 9 times out of 10, when something blows up around the world, look, I'm just running the numbers here. Xenophobic. No, I'm pro-America. Something to think about. Some of us have been on this tip for a long time. Some of us saw this coming. And before we close out the show today, I'm going to show you one of them. Here's a 5-minute clip from a man named Douglas Murray. I've met Douglas a couple times. I think he's a phenomenal guy. He's a societal critic and he's an author. He's a columnist for the New York Post, talking about the death of Europe and how Europe is dying. This is from 5 years ago. Tell me if this sounds a little bit like America today.
The civilization born of Judeo-Christian values, ancient Greek philosophy, and the discoveries of the Enlightenment is staring at the abyss brought there by its own hand. To put it starkly, Europe is committing suicide. How did this happen? It's a complicated story, but there are 2 major causes. The first is the mass movement of peoples into Europe. This has been going on steadily since the end of World War II, but sped up massively in the migration crisis of 2015, when more than 1 million migrants poured into Europe from the Middle East, North Africa, and East Asia. The second, and equally significant, is that Europe lost faith in itself, its beliefs, its traditions, and even its very legitimacy. Let's take a closer look at both causes. For decades, Europe encouraged people, mostly from the Middle East and North Africa, to come as temporary workers. Nobody expected them to stay, yet they did. And nobody asked them to leave, even those who came illegally. As one British immigration minister put it in 1999, removal takes too long, and it's emotional. And, of course, why would they leave? The economic opportunities were far greater in Europe than from where they came, and if the work dried up, there were generous welfare benefits to be had. For a time, immigrants were allowed, even encouraged, thanks to the European commitment to multiculturalism, to pursue whatever culture they wanted. But that didn't work out well. The leaders of Britain, France, and Germany admitted as much in 2011 when David Cameron, Nicolas Sarkozy, and Angela Merkel dramatically announced that multiculturalism had failed. So, the immigrants were then asked to assimilate and embrace Western values. If that happened, European governments reasoned, all the financial costs, even the occasional acts of terrorism, could be overlooked. But it never happened, and immigration just increased. During 2015, Germany and Sweden added 2% to their populations in a single year. By 2017, the most popular boy's name in the United Kingdom was Mohammed. So, why did European leaders decide Europe could take in anyone in the world, whether fleeing war or simply seeking a better life, no matter how different or even opposed their values were to European values? The one-word answer to this question is guilt. Aren't these refugees, the thinking goes, fleeing the consequences of European imperialism? Didn't we mercilessly exploit these unfortunate people in their home countries? Aren't we the cause of their misery? Accepting them into Europe is meant to be a wiping away of this guilt. This is especially true of Germany. In allowing 1.5 million people into her country in 2015, Angela Merkel was, in effect, proclaiming to the world that Germany, the great aggressor of the 20th century, the architect of the Holocaust, would be the humanitarian superpower of the 21st. A noble sentiment, perhaps, but who pays the price? The ordinary citizens of Europe, who've seen crime and terrorism increase exponentially. Their fears and frustrations have been largely ignored, or worse. In October 2015, the German government designated that 800 newly arrived immigrants were to be housed in the German town of Kassel. Concerned residents had a meeting to ask questions of their representatives, as a video recording shows that his citizens were calm and polite, and then, at a certain point, their district president informs them that the refugees are coming regardless of their objections, and anyone who does not agree with the policy is free to leave Germany. This official attitude, if there is a problem it's not with the refugees but with the citizens, reflects a sense of what I call tiredness. A feeling among the elite class that the European story has played out, that we've tried religion and all imaginable forms of politics, and that each has one after another led us to disaster. We taint every idea we touch, so who's to say that the world wouldn't be better off without us? Of course, only people who have no idea how lucky they are could take this view. Ironically, no one knows this better than those refugees who truly did assimilate and who defend Western values. Extraordinary people like Somali-born Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who left the Netherlands because she believed in the principles of the Enlightenment more than the Dutch did. Or Hamid Abdel Samid in Germany, whose life is threatened by fellow immigrants because he defends European values. This is the stuff of suicide. The self-annihilation of a culture. It is possible that ordinary Europeans will join their leaders in this pact, but recent opinion polls suggest that they have no intention of doing so. How they act on that intention will be the great story of the years ahead. Are we about to witness the end of Europe, or its rebirth? I'm Douglas Murray, author of The Strange Death of Europe, for Prager University.
Sound familiar to anybody? Sound familiar? When Europe sneezes, America catches a cold. And some kid from Ohio went to the Munich Security Council and told the elites of the world, we're done. We tried it your way. And your way is over. Guys, I want to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. Have a lovely, lovely weekend. Guys, everyone be safe. Head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this show. Get your St. Patrick's Day t-shirts. I hope everybody who got their Valentine's Day cards from us have sent them out, and I hope you all get lucky with them. I hope you all get lucky. Guys, have a good night. I'll catch you guys back on Monday. Will Johnson coming up next here on LFA TV. Until Monday, everybody, stay loud.